All right. I am super excited to have another guest. First time on the show, Nick Alvear on the Move Happy movement. Thanks so much for taking the time today.
Thanks for having me on. This is cool.
Yay, I'm so excited. You're actually my second guest this year. I've been doing this like spiritual journey in the last like year and a half of doing a lot of like just episodes by myself, just doing like sermons and different things. So yeah, I'm excited to have you on
Oh,
the show. So thanks so much. Um
yeah.
So I like to kind of dive into people's history and their, if you're cool with kind of going a little bit younger version of you, so people can kind of hear a little bit more of your story and kind of where you grew up and what was life like for Nick as a child.
Okay, I can do that. And for
Cool.
those who don't know who I am, I make films. I haven't always made films, but as a child, when I was 9, 10 years old, I started editing. My mom was a technology teacher, so she'd come home and bring a lot of cool stuff that I could play with. But to go
Okay.
further back, America was my first gift. I moved here on my first birthday from Caracas, Venezuela.
Wow.
I look like a white surfer dude, but I'm really like Spanish and Chilean and a little black. I'm Nigerian. So,
Cool.
yeah, a lot of my journey began from actually like deep depression. I was very depressed growing up.
Mm,
Um, and I don't know if it was just the chaos of my parents and fresh new immigrants trying to make it in America
mhm.
and figuring it all out with 4 kids, or if it was Accutane. I took Accutane as a
You.
teenager.
Oh,
Yeah,
oh,
and
terrible.
yeah, they were like, if you get suicidal thoughts, you let us know. And even though I did, I wasn't gonna let anyone know. I didn't know how to do that. I didn't communicate well as a kid.
Wow.
So yeah, there were nights I just wanted to die, like as a kid,
Mm,
going to sleep crying immensely, wishing I was dead, like a 14-year-old, 15-year-old. Um, and if it wasn't for that, I wouldn't have found or sought something to help. And that
mhm,
thing that helped was meditation. So
mhm.
for and I guess creativity was the outlet that let me forget about things because I was teaching myself piano, teaching myself editing,
Wow.
but yeah, meditation became a staple for me. But before we get into how I ended up filmmaking, I just want to like package the whole young version of me.
Yeah.
I wasn't always so depressed, like as a young kid. I was just a creative. My parents would let me write on the walls. I would like draw all over my dad's Volkswagen van before he'd get home from work.
Oh,
Like
wow.
little, yeah, my mom gave me a lot of freedom to
Mhm,
do art. And
mhm.
it's cool because now that's my life. I get to make art as
Yeah.
for a living. Yeah.
Yeah. Wow. It sounds like really neat, supportive parents too. That's awesome.
Yeah. Super. My dad was a photographer. He was obsessed with cameras, and my mom was a
Okay.
teacher, but really a musician. And they came here and kind of dumped their dream to make money and support their family. So I
Mhm.
kind of feel like I'm taking over where they left off.
Yeah, that's so neat. I love that. I kind of took like from my mom too. She was like big musician. So that's awesome.
Cool.
So, okay, so in high school, you started dabbling in, or junior high, middle school, you started getting into the Accutane thing. Were you at that point, were you getting into filmmaking or more art or?
Yeah, it was a little bit before, during, and after.
Okay.
Um, yeah, so like at 10, 11, 12 is when I first started I would like illegally download Adobe Premiere. And my mom had a VCR input behind the PC. So I figured I could film some stuff
Hmm.
with the camcorder and then upload it onto the computer. And
Yeah.
that's how I first started editing. And I'd
Wow.
make short films with my friends and
Uh-huh.
um, just like cheesy horror movies like that every little kid makes. Yeah, I know. But
That's
yeah, that's where it
awesome.
began.
That's
Hmm
awesome. Do you have any favorite movies you made from your childhood or like the theme of it?
Um, mm, No, I'd say the one cool thing I did make that kind of feels like a little bit of today. When I got into high school, there was a lot of I was in a media class. I got most creative in high school because I would just create a lot of stuff. And one of the things I created was an animation of me getting Ebola and what happens to me when I get Ebola. Like I'm throwing up blood. I was reading a book about Ebola then, so I was really graphic about it.
Wow.
I know, and then my hand like falls off, and people are like, "How did you do that?" But, I mean, this was 2005. I'm 35, so
Uh-huh.
yeah, I was in high school quite a while ago. It feels weird.
Yeah. Wow. So very creative. Evil.
Yeah.
Okay, so after high school, were you working? Were you in college? What were you in art school? What were you doing?
This is where this is for people who might not, what I'm about to say is for people who might like compare themselves to the rest of society and think they're losers and not, they shouldn't because like by societal standards, I was a loser. I didn't care to go to college and I just wanted to be a monk. I thought I was going to be a Buddhist monk. I just wanted to meditate. And so I went on a lot of retreats, but at the same time, I wanted to be a rock star. So I was in bands, I was playing keyboard, in really cool bands. I had a really good time.
That's
But
awesome.
yeah, to the outside world, I realized at one point I went to visit a friend in Washington who everyone in the house that he lived with all had a master's degree or starting up a company.
Yeah.
And I was this like hippie who had nothing. And I was like 25, maybe 24,
Mhm.
and thinking, gee, like I haven't even gone to school. I got nothing. Am I just going to be like this forever?
Mhm.
And that's when I decided to kick it up a notch and try out school. Let's go to a community college. Let's go for
Okay.
filmmaking. Let's go for psychology and
Mhm.
see if I can somehow blend the two. And the funny thing is, I wanted to make films that were narrative films, films of screenplays that you get a whole team and collaborative effort around. And
Yeah.
I'm gonna get there. Like that's where I will end up.
Yeah.
But in college, the only class available was documentary filmmaking.
Hmm.
I was like, I don't want to take this documentary filmmaking. What? And I did it and it was cool, but afterwards I didn't care. It's weird because that's what I do now. And I've made 61 documentaries. So
Yeah.
like yeah, like yeah, it's weird. But I realized quickly that I wasn't gonna be a filmmaker like I thought in enough time. I had a fiance and then I wanted to have a baby. So and I was thinking, well, maybe it'll take a while to become a psychologist. Why don't I just transfer this and learn a trade? So I learned computer network engineering, started
Wow.
working in the workforce. Yeah, that was crazy. That's like alien technology.
Yeah.
Um, and then this is when like things start to magically turn into something that I had hoped, and in a way that didn't look like how I wanted, but it was what I hoped. Um,
Hmm.
so I started working at this startup that makes a construction software,
Okay.
and I started to really vocalize my political beliefs, and people
Mhm.
that were friends no longer became friends; they became enemies
Mhm.
and it made it a living hell for me to work there until I got fired. And the day I got fired, I have a daughter. I think she was probably around 3 at that time,
Mhm.
and it was the day COVID had begun. It was
Oh.
it was like the day COVID began for Silicon Valley. It was March 12th and people 2020 and people were being sent home. And at that time, I remember having debates with people and noticing that I couldn't get anywhere with them
Mhm.
and I was exhausting myself. Um, actually, I want to pause on this moment right here. We're going to come back to this moment
Okay.
because what happened 6 months before is very pivotal. I forgot to
Okay.
tell. Um, I don't I don't drink and drive anymore. I never really did, except for one time.
Mm.
And this one time I did. It was about August of 2019.
Okay.
And I was working in Santa Barbara and I would commute home to Ventura. I drove home drunk in the middle of the night and almost swerved off the PCH. No cops were involved. Nobody was hurt. I just woke up on the couch. And when I woke up on the couch, my ex-wife, a wife at the time, she
Uh-huh.
said, "You totaled the car." And I said, "Well, what?" And she's like, "Yeah, but it's parked outside. It's parked nice." And I thought, well, "Parked nice?" So I went out, I looked, and it's actually this car. It's this Prius. I decided to get it on me to remember
Yeah.
because this is the guardrail of the what saved me.
Wow.
Um, I realized what had happened when I surveyed the car. I tried to park it in the back, and I realized, how did I drive? Because there's something wrong with the axle here that I have to really turn hard to get it to move.
Mhm.
And I noticed there was tall grass underneath. I noticed that there was guardrail markings. And so on the shuttle ride to work, I was thinking, I'm going to look out for those two things, tall grass, green paint on the guardrail, and I'll see where I crashed.
Mhm.
And I found where I crashed, what it looked like was, if I had turned any sooner, I would have missed the guardrail and I would have gone off, and I would have, in my mind, that's when I realized, dude, you could have died.
Yeah.
And the two things that came to my mind were, your daughter wouldn't have had you. And then together in unison, I was thinking, you didn't become a filmmaker, and you didn't become a known filmmaker and a known musician.
Mhm.
And so from that moment on, I got a little cuckoo, and I started like, I was always studying Tony Robbins and the power of positive thinking, but I took it up a notch, and I went to a
Yeah.
UPW,
Oh,
and
how was that?
I was awesome. I walked on fire. I walked on the coals. That was crazy. Yeah. Um, I got to shake Tony's hand, and like one of his fingers are like the size of two of mine. Like he's just like, too much human growth hormone. His pituitary gland had a tumor when he was 18, 19. So like he just has excess
Yeah.
everything.
Hmm.
Yeah. So it changed me. It changed the way that I believed that I could do things. And so people who met me, they were like, yo, you're really crazy, or we believe you. You're going to do all the things you're
Yes.
saying you're going to do. Yeah. And so like at that time, I would have friends come over every Sunday for barbecue. And the ones who would show up, I realized they're dependable. They're going to be on my crew. We're going to make movies. And there was a spurt between getting fired, almost dying, that I started making a bunch of short films. So that was fun. I loved it. I loved the energy of directing a production and having everyone want to be there. It's a
Yeah.
very exciting feeling. Yeah. And then all this stuff happened. COVID hit, and then I get fired, and then I'm thinking like, wow, I had this great momentum. Um, Now like I'm at home. What do I do? I'm on unemployment. And I thought about my neighbor, whose name is Jack, and he's no longer my neighbor. This is like a few years ago.
Yeah.
I've moved to many places since, and I'll get to that. But I figured if I could make something to help him wake up, then I won't have to exhaust myself in debating people. It's just something they can watch, push play.
Yeah.
And because I'm a musician, I make music. My music's online under Venus Looking Glass. I was just sharpening my skills with a brand new editing software called DaVinci Resolve.
Hmm.
And because of me just working on music videos, the blend of this one moment where I was watching Fall of the Cabal, which is a really beautiful series, enlightening, of the corruption in the world in every
Uh-huh.
pocket. And Janet Osbard, she wrote it, narrated it. She recently passed away from depression. She couldn't
Mhm.
handle it anymore. And when you watch it all, you can kind of understand someone who keeps that all in
Yeah.
probably doesn't have a good outlook on the world.
Yeah.
But I was watching her stuff, and I thought I could do this way better. Like I could make this look like a team of millionaires made it.
Yeah.
And because hers looks like a teacher in the 60s made it. And it's a good style to get people in. But if you want to wake up other people who are very new and want to see that, have this belief that many other people are behind it, it's just a different approach. And that was my angle from the beginning.
I
And
love
so
that.
it just so happened the first movie I decided to make um, rode the coattails of a popular movie called Out of Shadows. And my movie was called Swamp, The History of Elite Child Sex Trafficking. And
Mm.
so when mine came out, I got to like, it was my first movie. No one knew who I was, and I didn't even know what to do. But if you have a will, there's a way. And so, because that movie was out, I just copied and pasted it to every post that everyone's like, you got to watch Out of Shadows. And I'm like, well, here's a shorter version. And it kind of worked. Had like 3,000 views in a week, and I was like celebratory. Like I was in a celebratory mood for that alone.
Yeah.
But it wasn't until the fifth film I had this sidekick tell me that you should write your own film and not use other people's threads. And I did, and that's when things started to go viral. That's when I started to get like 300,000 views, 500,000 views on a series called Purviewwood. And like, for example, first Purviewwood came out April of 2020,
Mhm.
and now the 18th film of Purviewwood just came out last week. So
Awesome.
yeah, it's evolved into a massive thing,
Yeah.
and in the whole process, it doesn't even just end there. Like I'm a filmmaker, so I went to the Trump rally, the January 6th rally, and ended up in jail for 45 days, waiting to get sentenced. And they gave me time served, but 3 years probation. And I had a great time in jail, honestly.
Did you?
I did. It's because of the vibe. Like if you go in there afraid, you're gonna have a fearful time,
Yeah.
but you always have a choice no matter where you are. And in jail, like immediately for me to even have space to choose, I
Mm.
told myself right away, you're on a meditation retreat. You've done worse
Yes.
before. Yeah, and that's what helped me stay cool. And then other people feel the cool, and then they feel safe. And then honestly, there's been magic in jail for me. And I know it's pretty messed up for people who've gone to jail for J6 and didn't have this kind of experience.
Yeah.
Jail still sucks, but I had a really magical time in there.
Yeah. And I love your authenticity about it. Like, there's nothing superb about it, right? But it's like your attitude towards it. And I mean, did you make connections while you were in there to other people that you're still connected to today?
Some, yeah, some I really am waiting to link with. I know I think of some of them all the time,
Yeah.
but there's some I still text, and like some people I met along the journey who are in jail for 10 years, and I still like touch base with them and
Yeah.
sometimes send them money. And the J6ers I never got close with. I just felt real bad when I came out that I couldn't do anything for them. And I
Yeah.
wasn't in the DC gulag for too long. I was in there for a week and a half
Yeah.
in solitary confinement. I went through four jails, and like I've never even had a speeding ticket. So for this like young dude to go through jail and be tested, it helped me become a man in a way. And maybe 10 years from now, I'm gonna look back and go, "You thought you were a man," but I'm more of a man than I was when this whole thing started. Um, because you just don't know how you're gonna react to completely getting all your freedoms taken away. And they bring you food when they want to bring you food. You're sharing a small space oftentimes with 30 grown men. And think about what that's like when you're going to bed. A lot of them stay up. So you don't get sleep. You learn how to sleep with noise all the time.
Mm.
Um, and the food, the water, it's just everything really does suck. But if you're cool and you have the tools, you can make it better. So, like, if people can make life great in jail and you're having a bad time outside of jail, you can make it better too. There's simple things that you can do. So, and yeah, and that's just still scratching the surface, like, of what I've gone through. One day I'm going to write a book,
I
and
love it.
yeah, a second book.
Should. You
Yeah.
totally should. I did a webinar a few years ago, from the Miracle Morning like book. There was like their Facebook group page. Someone had how to publish your book in 90 days kind of thing. And it was
Oh,
very
cool.
helpful. He did like a mind mapping tool. So yeah, you let me know afterwards when you're ready to go for it. Yeah, I'd love to
Heck
help.
yeah,
I think
of
that'd be
course.
yeah.
I wrote a book once. It was a self-help book for techies because when I was learning how to do computer network engineering,
Uh-huh.
I was doing the Tony Robbins stuff. So I was like also doing a comparison and using analogies from computer world
Mhm.
to self-help world.
That's so
So yeah, hello self or hello self.
title.
You can find it on Amazon. That's the title, yeah. Because the first code ever written was hello world. And so I just hello
Oh,
self. Yeah.
very cool. That's awesome. So, I mean, it sounds like you've been through a lot. You've done a lot of things. You've been through a lot. I mean, having, different experiences from different countries, different areas of the US. You've moved around a lot. So, what are one of our pillars here at Move Happy is mindset. So, what are some of your go-to strategies, either that you've learned from, Tony Robbins or other people like him that you look up to, or just from your own, existence and living? What have you found is really helpful on those difficult days?
To be grateful. There's always something to be grateful. Like even in jail, what I looked forward to in jail was food. So like whenever they brought food, I was just a little happy 5-year-old, and everyone's like, "What's wrong with you?" And I'm like, "It's food. Like, come on, this is the best part." Even in solitary confinement, when food came, it reset any kind of impatience that I had. It was just, yeah. So being grateful, if you have something to eat, that's something to be really happy about. If you have a cool place to live, if you even if you have a shitty place to live, you have a place to live. F Finding a way to be grateful for it will make it shitty or great. And oftentimes the things that we have, we take for granted. If you ever go camping or go to another country and you realize they don't have hot water, and then you come home and you take a shower, you love the hot water for a week and then you're over it.
Yep.
So you can choose to be happy by just picking something to be grateful for and milk it. So that's like what I do now every day. I look around and I go, I can't believe I ignored this life. Like there was, I was in a relationship that was abusive and it sucked. Like I loved someone who was violent, and that kind of sucked my soul for a long time. Yet I was still doing podcasts and people thought like I was okay. And so like over the last 4 months, 5 months, 6 months, it's been healing. I've been healing and it's been awesome. And one of the things that I'm doing to get back into that pocket of mindset that's great is I walk every morning. I walk like 7,000 steps, so it's usually about an hour. And then and that helps me turn on any kind of, it turns away stagnant energy that I can then use for positivity. So the gratitude thing. If you can just be grateful, that's how God gives you more of it. Because if you're complaining, you're not going to bring anything new
Right.
that's going to make you feel great. You have to be stoked on everything. It's not hard.
Yeah.
Maybe,
I love
yeah.
I love that.
Hmm.
I'm curious when you're walking, are you listening to something or are you listening to nature? Yeah.
Both. So sometimes I listen to, no, most of the time I'm listening to, um, lately, like I just play music throughout the house, like, and I'll do a radio station and discover new songs, and then
Okay.
I'll put it on a playlist, and then some of these songs will live with me for a week or two. Some days I'll just listen to the same song on repeat. But like what I've been doing lately, because I want to branch out into being a DJ and going out. I live in Nashville and going out into some of the clubs here. They have some new clubs
Uh-huh.
where I could practice. And so I listen to a lot of that, but I do that kind of practice now on a podcast on my channel on Rumble. It's Good Lion Films is the Rumble channel. I don't put it on goodlion.tv. That's more of just my streaming service where you can find my films. But there's also thousands of films there. So if anybody here is curious, you can go check out that whole thing. But or you can check out the music. People love the music that I've been playing, and that's the kind of uplifting, slightly house, slightly electronic,
Okay.
singer-songwriter.
Mhm.
Yeah, music is everything.
I love that. That's awesome. You touched on it earlier with, doing films with friends and whatnot. Second pillar of Move Happy is all about our community, and that's like one of our strongest predictors for positive mental health, or, if we're hanging out with the wrong kinds of people, can go the opposite end, whatnot. So what are some of your strategies for building a healthy community or trimming the fat of those that might not be so positive?
I'd say I'd say my advice is probably not the best, because like
Okay.
I've not been the best at, I've had my door open to everyone for a long time, and I've been lonely for a long time just making movies. So I do know the how sad it is to not have a community and what it can do to a person. And that's why like, and I do also know, if you, that's probably what led me to keep the door open so easily, because I was so desperate for connection. And then me doing the work that I do and sometimes getting popular for a certain movie, people want to come and feel the warmth of this kind of popular thing. And sometimes those people can't even help their own intentions. And it's like the frog and the scorpion story. Some
Yeah.
people are just going to sting you and they might mean well, but at some point, yeah, I had to get better at realizing who's going to sting me because I've been stung enough and and I just don't want to drown. And my strategy to cut the fat, for example, over this last movie I made that got me a lawsuit because I called someone out for his past crimes, and he was so offended that I did it that he sued me for defamation. And so in that, I had a lot of people around who hated this guy so much, and it was so much hate in my daily life that I'm not used to that, and I
Mhm.
had to trim all of that fat. So like it was almost very emotionally and physically, I gained weight from December to I'd say April and, and maybe March, April. And then I just trimmed all of it. Like I started running, I started walking, I started working out, but I also completely cut everyone out that I had met in between and went back to December with my friend group. And it's very small now, and it really helped. In the beginning, it really sucked because some people aren't going to get it.
Yeah.
And you just have to do it. You got to make yourself priority number one, two, and three so that you can really love other people. If you're not loving yourself, if you're looking for love, how are you going to get it if you're not loving yourself? Because if you're not loving yourself, you're going to use that person as a crutch, and it's probably not going to last. It's going to be imbalanced.
Mhm.
So I had to do all these things to get a better life. I feel like my life is so much better now.
Good. I love your
Yeah.
authenticity too. So anyone that's listening that was in that friend group, love them from a distance.
Peace
Um,
out.
yeah, peace out.
Sorry.
Find some new friends to hang out with. Now you mentioned walking and whatnot. Of course, Move Happy is very movement related. What is your favorite thing to do for moving your body? Is it walking or
Walking with my girlfriend. Yeah,
okay?
for the sunset. We do like this 2, 3 mile walk, and
Uh-huh.
just being able to talk to her and also get the walk in, like the activity of moving and talking. And then it makes me realize some of the best times of my life were
Mhm.
when I walked a lot. Walking a lot is, I think people who are coming off drugs also, walking keeps them off of it. I think it's opiates, um, opiates, and then maybe alcohol. But
Mhm.
yeah, I just a, a good 1 hour walk is the best
Yes, I love
uh,
that. I love
in
that.
nature. Uh-huh.
Yeah. Do y'all do some of the parks down in the Nashville area then? Is that where you guys prefer to do? Cool.
Yeah. hmm It's
No.
nice. Nashville is beautiful. I
Yes.
like I had to take a break and go to Florida after everything got chaotic with everyone who was involved with the last movie calling out that really corrupt individual.
Yep.
And it was a blessing that I got this Airbnb in the middle of Sarasota on a farm, and the silence of the farm at night and the cows,
Mhm.
and just it reminded me, like, do you remember what peace do or what nature does for you? It brings you so much peace, like you have forgotten. So ever since then, I'm like, where's the nature in Nashville? And there's so much. Some places look like they're jungles. It's insane.
Yeah, yeah. I really encourage people at least once a week to like go to a park or do something in the woods, like listen to the animals, the birds chirping. Like if you can get more than once a week, like that's good, but that's like bare minimum because there's so much healing in nature. Yeah,
So
100%.
much. I
Yeah,
have to every morning. It's like my coffee, and
love
I'm
it.
blessed that I get to. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, no, that's awesome. And then you also have, all the live music and all that too. You can go listen to. It's not
Yeah.
bad. Or play if you're have you done the performing thing?
I almost did when I moved here, but I just wasn't ready for it. But I've performed around. I know what it feels like, and maybe that'll be like a big part of my life at some point because that's kind of what I want to do. Making documentaries about conspiracies is great, but there's so many. The audience is beautiful, but there's so much fighting in where I'm kind of looking at, and I don't. And there's so much gullibility. There's people who are so gullible, and I thought that I was helping people become less gullible by questioning and discerning. And I'm seeing like I need to make an impact in a greater way. And so I'm looking at doing it in a bigger way. Naturally, I think that's just what happens. And I think God is making me realize, hey, is this fun for you? No, but I really like doing this, but that doing it here is not fun anymore. Okay, so what are you gonna do? I'm gonna do it over there.
Making a change
So
or pivot. Yeah, no, that's cool.
yeah, exactly.
Good for you. That's awesome. I think a lot of people are afraid to change, afraid to make a shift in their life. They're content with being discontent, but they're not, it's like I don't hate it enough to want to do anything about it.
Right. That's deep. Yeah. I've made a lot of changes in my life before, and it starts f from really getting critical with your behaviors and going, dude, what are you doing? You cannot do this. You need to change. Like to have that much anger or disgust behind an attitude or a behavior will get you moving. And once you have that, you got to choose an action. You have to pick an action item to carry your momentum. So for me, it was going, I'm going to walk 7,000 steps every morning. And then it's now become a thing where if I don't, I really feel it. But it from just one activity and one win every day, you feel that you can add more wins to it. And so like it's all about momentum. However, anyone out there can think of building their own according to their lifestyle. Once you get that down, boom, things will change. I've been trying to get my mom on this. I text her every
Yes.
morning. Are you doing your walking? Are you doing walking? And she's not. But when she starts, that's when things are going to shift.
Yeah, good for you checking in on mom. That's important. Um,
Word.
so I know you had mentioned about your films and whatnot. What are you really excited about? Like, what project are you working on right now, or latest release that you'd like to share with the audience and they can maybe support you or buy from you?
Okay. Two things, maybe three. There's I'm doing something that I used to do when I didn't really when my streaming platform wasn't so big. I
Mhm.
would promote a movie before I made it, and then I'd say, "Hey, do you want to be a producer on this?" And people would come around and pay X, Y, and Z to have their name on the front of the film and collaborate with me. And so I figured I could do that again because it makes me
Yeah.
feel more connected. Yeah, and so I made this film Tartaria, the Tartarian Empire, which is kind of an alternative history conspiracy theory about I wouldn't say it's a conspiracy theory. I'd say it's fact, but I mean just to play it safe. It is
Okay.
a theory.
Yeah.
Yeah, but it's about basically the world before these power-hungry corporations eliminated free energy
Mhm.
and created energy that we had to work for in order to make us modern day slaves.
Yeah.
And Tartaria has what we have today around the world, like Capitol buildings and cathedrals and pyramids. These are all remnants of a civilization that once thrived and was once one around our realm. And they did a really good job at erasing or taking over these structures and rewriting history. It's actually this guy, James W. Lee.
Mhm.
Um, this is his book. I know it might be a reverse. It says nothing is true, everything is a lie. What's cool is this guy has these for free on his website,
Oh,
and the movies are based off the book and the website. Um, A Plain Truth, I think that's what it is. Let me just double check. Plaintruth.info, and plain is Plane.
okay.
You can get these books PDF. I read this in jail and I was like, I'm making it a series when I get out. And so now I'm fundraising for part three. And part three goes into each installment goes back further in years.
Okay.
And so now we're going back about 5,000, 10,000 years to Lemuria and Atlantis. And so I'm really excited for this because I don't know what it's going to look like. I have an idea, and then there are potential investors, producers who I'm really excited to work with, who might work with me. And that's just cool because, like I
Awesome.
said, I don't like making documentaries here, so I'm gonna go make them there. And that's what there is. It's a whole new realm. So
That's
yeah,
cool.
yeah, I'm excited for it. Also,
Oh yeah.
I just made Pervywood P. Diddy Volume 1. Has nothing to do with P. Diddy, but actually the build up into how a P. Diddy could exist.
Mm,
And I invite you guys to come to goodlion.tv. When you're there, you can sign up for free. You can watch 10 of my films for free. I have 61. If you want to support me, it's $7 a month. If you want to get a year, it's 77. There's promos going on. So when you go to memberships, you can see what savings you can have. Um, but that film is cool because it goes through how sound frequency was used as a weapon, like 440 hertz compared to 432 hertz.
yeah.
It goes into um, the Tavistock Institute, the social engineering organization that has puppeteered society into a way to be almost zombie-like slave, demonic in ways. That leads into um, the prison for profit system, which is incredibly corrupt. And we show an angle of it in how they hijacked hip hop to promote criminality. They were starting to tell famous hip hop artists in the early 90s to rap about crimes. And that's mantras, it makes people want to go get a gun and be an idiot or do drugs and be an idiot. Um, and it worked. And you can see in the movie the intricate details of how they did this. It's really messed up because it changed a generation. There's a lot of
Yeah.
people in jail for 10, 20 years for things that really they were controlled into, they were mind controlled into.
Yeah.
But then it ends off on how many hip hop artists are actually gay. And we wouldn't realize it. They have this persona where they're like thugs and they're really hard. So, and that all is what builds into P. Diddy. And the next movie, Volume 2, is the lawsuit that he just got into. And the reason why this is important to me is because we're going to start seeing establishments, pretty big ones like the music industry or even the financial system or DC. We're going to see a lot of crumbling of structures. And I think we're seeing the beginning of a massive crumble with the music industry because it's not just P. Diddy who's going down. If you're paying attention, there's a lot of artists that are starting to fall down this house of cards with them. So, yeah, that's what
Yeah.
I got going on right now.
Yeah, I love that. So definitely sign up. I would say they need to sign up for your lifetime membership option, bare minimum, and sign up their family as well.
Heck yeah, you can share your login. There's $100 off the lifetime access. I'm never gonna stop making movies. Eventually, one day, you're gonna be like, "Wow, that's the guy who was on, like on the internet." And I won't be on the internet like that anymore, but it'll be like series that you see on Netflix, or maybe Good Line will just be that big.
Yeah,
Um, yeah, why not? I know. Yeah, that's true.
awesome. I love it. Okay. So I always love to close out the show with like a silly question. So if you were a teenage mutant ninja turtle, which one would you be and why?
That's a great question. My first one was Michelangelo. Isn't he the silly one, the orange?
Yeah, I feel like he's the silly one.
That's who I am deep down. Like,
Okay.
yeah, and like if you hang out with me and you get to know me, you realize the real me is actually like super silly. And if I can get comfortable with someone to where that's who I could relax into, that's who I'll relax into. So yeah, and a little bit of Leonardo. Like I'm
Okay.
like a little bit of them too. That's a great question. What about you? Who are
Um,
you?
probably, I don't know. Yeah, probably a little bit of the silly one too.
Tight. That's cool.
Well,
Mhm.
thank you again so much for taking the time to be on the show.
My pleasure.
Really loved your movies and whatnot, and I can't wait to see the next ones coming out.
Cool. Thank you so much. Yeah, this was fun.
Yeah.